What's going on, guys? Today I bring you back another Q&A video. So if you have any questions, post them down below and let's get started. Hey Alex, went on a lean bulk. If my calories fluctuate from maintenance to surplus some days, is that okay as long as I'm a total of 2,000 calories, so surplus total by the end of the week? Okay, some days you're in a maintenance, some days in a surplus. Is that okay provided that at the end of the week, you're still in that 5-20% surplus range? Yes, that's fine from a body weight manipulation standpoint. I think the weekly calories matter more. It's like me cheating on my diet and then I fast for the next 2 to 3 days. Obviously, I'm still gonna lose weight. The difference in this situation lies in the macronutrients. Why are your calories fluctuating? Is it due to cardio or maybe because you underate certain things? Is your protein still going to be adequate? I would say that as long as what you're eating remains relatively consistent and there's not too many fluctuations, you should be okay. And the other thing too to consider is the individual workout recovery. Because if you're doing a Monday, Wednesday, Friday split, and then the Tuesday you underate, well, Wednesday you might not feel 100%. So I would say that for the high frequency, high volume systems, or just programs that are aggressive in nature, this may not be the best for the training itself. But are you still gonna make gains? Absolutely. You're still in the surplus after all, and the truth is, you can make gains in a maintenance phase, or even in a deficit. In fact, there are some guys who recommend this exact approach, where on workout days, you're in a surplus, off days, you're in a deficit or maintenance phase, or whatever order you want to mix it around with. So you'll be fine. Just know that it's probably not the best possible scenario. Optimal is when you eat the same every single day. But I think you already knew that. Alex, are there any differences in programming pulling and pushing exercises due to the different strength curves, like for chins and dips? Not really. You're still rotating the variations and manipulating the grip widths, the tempo, the pausing, the accommodating resistance. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do. It can be a bench press, overhead press, barbell row. All of the principles that I talk about in my videos apply. It really is universal. You need to identify what your weak points are and then rotate specific variations that automatically give you carryover if that's your goal. In the case of pull-ups and dips, I suppose the only real difference would be in the pausing. On the pull-ups, you're gonna do isometrics at the lockout, whereas the dips, probably not, unless we're talking about the slingshot variation or doing accommodating resistance. So maybe for that, you're more likely to modify the strength curve for dips as opposed to pull-ups. And with dips, you have a little bit less variation. So you might find yourself doing weighted push-ups as well, or experimenting with the rings instead. Whereas pull-ups have a lot more grip widths to experiment with and a lot of variations that it's not just you going up and down. Like you can lean back, you can turn it more into a front lever style, tuck position. There's all kinds of variations. So I would say it probably has to do with the amount of movements that you can rotate through. But the programming itself, I can't think of any significant differences other than the fact that with the dips, you're gonna be pausing more at the bottom and the pull-ups at the top. Does deficit handstand push-ups somewhat equal to body weight overhead press? Also, what do you think about Iron Wolf, high rep burpees, and calisthenics? For the handstand push-ups, I don't think it equates exactly. Otherwise, we would have a bunch of calisthenics athletes with elite overhead presses. So it's not totally the same thing. You might think that it is, and logically, I can understand that conclusion, but once you actually try it out, you'll understand that's not actually the case. Unless maybe, if we're talking about the freestanding version, which most people aren't doing. Like, I can do over 15 reps on the deficit handstand push-up, but my feet are against the wall. Is that the reason why? Otherwise, I should be able to do in the 170s for reps of 15 on the overhead press, and that would be absolutely insane. You plug that in on the Wonder Max calculators, it's not accurate if you assess it that way. And keep in mind, I'm not someone who does a tremendous amount of handstand push-ups, so my specificity is not even what it should be yet. The performance is still up there. So maybe for me, it's because I don't do it the freestanding version, but with that, there's also a stability aspect, and you can manipulate your body leverages a bit more, and still you're pressing the weights away from you. It's like saying a weighted push-up will equal to a Wonder Max bench, but that's not what happens. Obviously, the deficit handstand push-up is a lot more specific. It's very similar to that OHB, but still, your body's moving through space. So I can't make extreme comments on that because I don't do the freestanding version, but I don't think it would be exactly comparable. It would be similar. There might be a 30-pound difference or so, but I don't think it's going to be exact correlation. Like just do this and your OHB is going to be at your highest potential. No. In regards to Iron Wolf, I honestly believe he has one of the best channels in the history of YouTube fitness. This is what we needed. No BS, just straight workouts, raw. They actually work. They're challenging. Man, I bet the majority of fitness influencers can't even do one round of some of his routines or half of the workout going at his pace. They're brutal. I've tried some out, and you know what? I'm inspired by what he does. Looking at his performance at his age too, with that level of cardiovascular fitness, is absolutely insane. And the best part is that these workouts really are effective. They're the real deal. It's not gimmicks. So Iron Wolf really elevated my cardio standards. I thought I was already fit before. I was doing the bathroom 30-minute boxing rounds, running on a daily basis. And then I started doing those routines with the burpees and just the high rep everything with minimal rest, because that's pretty much what it is. Circuit type workouts. I realized I had way more potential. I check in, I'm subscribed to him, notification bell obviously, and I really, really like what he's producing, and I would love to do an interview with him, you know? So definitely an inspiration, and we need more guys like that. Humble, realistic, telling you how it is. That is what real fitness is all about. So definitely check out his channel, and you will not be disappointed. Trust me on that one. Hey Alex, first of all, how are you these days? And second, why are Pendlay rows good accessory movement for deads? Well, thank you very much. All is well. You know, I'm just trying to bring you this content. 2020 has been a rough year for many of us, so I'm committed to giving you the advice you deserve. I want all of us to be on a higher level, not letting the environment dictate our fitness success. So that's my mission. Help you guys out and just do my best in this regard. So it's you first, you know, that's how I'm doing, man. And then for the Pendlay rows, it's a great accessory lift because the back is very important for deadlift strength. Yes, it's a hip hinge exercise, primarily emphasizes the posterior chain, but without a strong upper back, you will never maximize your potential in a million years. And this is why exercises like barbell rows and pull-ups give you direct carryover, provided that your legs are strong enough. Look what you see me do despite being very lazy with lower body training. That's because I maintained the size and the strength, but my upper back strength improved, which gave me carryover. So the Pendlay row is a concentric based row. Very easy on your recovery, yet you can use pretty heavy weights, and it's an explosive exercise. So you can rack up lots of volume without impairing lower back recovery, which makes a big difference for deadlift specifically, and then forces you to maintain that lower body tightness, which is crucial for deadlifts. You're basically in the starting position of a conventional deadlift, but you're rowing instead. That's all there is to it. So it's a very specific exercise for building your pulls. Alex, what would you think about 3-day conjugate system where you have 1 intensity day and 2 volume days? Upper lower, for example, wouldn't more volume make the system better and also shorten the workouts as well? Thing is, with the conjugate system, it's typically recommended to rest 72 hours between strenuous workouts. You got your max effort days and your volume days. And keep in mind, this includes the lower body and upper body. So it's already pretty brutal. Like, you'll feel very exhausted by the end of each workout. And to do that at a higher frequency is not something that I would recommend, because not only do you have to rotate more movements to do this, but you also have to pay extreme attention to volume manipulation. You can't be doing the same amount of sets on a workout to workout basis. So now you're juggling that process even further. And what I could tell you in my old system, the alpha body, is that it was either Monday, Wednesday, Friday, heavy, light, medium, or every other day, but sometimes it's heavy, sometimes it's lighter. And it becomes more auto-regulated and instinct-based at that point. Sometimes you need that 3rd day of rest, sometimes you don't. It's never gonna be exactly the same. Whereas the classic system, Monday, Tuesday on, Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday on, weekends off, you feel phenomenal year round. It's always going to be the same recovery. You know what to expect. And let's keep it real, the gains are perfect. You don't need more than this, man. You're hitting the optimal volume every single workout. The blending of volume and intensity is ideal for recovery. And I just don't see you experiencing that much quicker gains with the extra days. 1 extra day, in this case, upper lower. Like, if you're impairing your recovery and having to do so much more headaches programming wise, is that really worth it? I don't think so. Now, some guys can do this. So literally just going upper, lower, upper, lower, upper, lower. And it's super effective, but how are you going to feel by the end of the week? How are you going to feel after months of doing this type of training? I think you're going to overreach much quicker. And your gains are going to be marginally better, maybe 10, 15% more, but at the cost of feeling beat down all the time. So I wouldn't recommend this personally. I'd rather you do more GPP work on those additional days, not just upping that frequency. But that's my opinion for the conjugate system specifically. If we're talking about a more minimalist routine, then yeah, jack it up, but not for this, given the blending of the volume and intensity, the 72 hours of rest. Alex, what are your thoughts on me only doing deficit deadlifts instead of regular deadlifts to break a deadlift plateau? Well, I think you should include all the deadlift variations from deficit, the standard position, even a little bit of partials, from 2 to 4 inch blocks, adding in bands and chains. I don't believe in minimalist thinking. Only do this. But in your case, it'll absolutely work because deficit deadlifts have a greater range of motion and the carryover is absolutely amazing. You might be able to pull 20 to 40 pounds less. And then the moment you take off the deficit, it feels like a partial. So you just shoot up like crazy. But sometimes some lifters can pull a bit more from a deficit due to the increased quad activation. So if that's you, maybe you should incorporate other variations as well. You have to know what your weaknesses are. And if a deficit deadlift is your stronger position, I wouldn't make that your default, to be honest with you, even though in theory, it should be the best builder. So to me, it's all about just mixing it all in. But if you want to use this as your main pull, no problems with that. The same if you want to do a rack pull as your main exercise, especially if you're not even a competitive powerlifter, you're just doing it for the general athletic benefits and strength building and all that. And keep in mind, doing this is going to have more carryover to other activities too. So it's all benefits, really. Will bear mode ever come back like in the past? The thing is, it never left. Just because I'm not there right now does not take away from the many benefits that I discussed. Naturally Enhanced is still up there, which talks about concurrent periodization and the bear mode philosophy, as are my older videos. I can't be repeating the same content year round. How many times do you want me to talk about 15, 20% body fat, looking bigger in clothes? I'm trying to freshen things up a bit to the best of my ability, because with YouTube Fitness, that's very hard to do. But in general, I would say this. Doesn't matter what I do. Just because I'm pursuing certain goals right now doesn't change anything. Thing is, this channel is not about me. It's for you. It's like I talked about in the previous question. I'm just an example. I'm the messenger. My goals are subject to change at any moment. Sometimes I want to be a bit leaner. Sometimes a bit more calisthenics based. I talk about all kinds of stuff here. And bear mode is one of those things which it still applies today. Everything that I spoke of is true. You will look more massive when you're wearing clothes and you have this amazing muscular appearance. And with the illusion strategies, makes you appear leaner as well. It's a different look. There's no right or wrong. And aesthetics are subjective. So what I would say to you is maybe in the future I'll go back to it. But right now, that's not my goal. I want to be as lean as I possibly can be while getting that 4 or 5 bench. That's the main goal. But if you want to do bear mode, more power to you, man. There's nothing wrong with it, honestly. You just got to follow the instructions that I spoke of back then. And of course, I tend to talk about it at least once a year and in many Q&A videos like this one. In Naturally Enhanced, can I use lower body accessories like reverse lunges as a main lift? You absolutely can. In fact, if you look at, I think my final 2019 workout video, I did a 300-pound Zercher lunge for 1 rep max. So yeah, you can do it for singles, 3 sets of 3, high sets, low reps. Why would not apply? I know it's a unilateral lift and people don't think about going that heavy on it or doing absurd amounts of volume in general with lower reps, but it could be done. That said, do I think doing 1 rep maxes on lunge variations is the way to go? Probably not. I think there is an increased injury risk, and the truth is, the performance you saw me display was mainly built by volume work, because I've always treated it as a secondary exercise where higher repetitions are performed, and you're still inducing progressive overload in those rep ranges, so the carryover is going to be there, especially if you're maxing out already, which I've always done. I like to max out on heavy pulls for the most part, or squatting variations if you want to get specific to that as well. So I'd rather you go max out on a heavy bilateral exercise, which can include bands and chains and pins and all that stuff if you want to get more or less weight. And then for your accessories, you high rep it or use some lower reps, but for lunges, I wouldn't go below 3 reps, to be honest with you. Even though this does work and you're probably gonna see me do it again. I'm speaking on a theoretical level here. This is what makes the most amount of sense. Alex, can you do 3 sets of 1 at 90% followed by 3 by 3 with a lower percentage again for back off with the same variation, the same workout? Yeah, bro, I've done that so many times, like I've lost count. And if you look at my full body workout videos, this has been my go-to for years. In 2019, you saw me do a 375 dead bench. What you just described was the exact method that got me there. It was the main one, rather, because I mix things up a lot. I do 5 by 5s, I do 5 sets of 1. Concurrent is very flexible, but this absolutely works. I especially like it on pull-ups. So you hit 1 peak set, the 1 rep max, and you drop it down, get some triples in there. It tends to be easy on your recovery, even though it's a high percentage. I know it's ironic, but it's true for a lot of exercises. And it just gets you brutally strong because it's the most specific thing possible for building strength. Triples and singles. What more do you want, man? You can argue that maybe a 5 by 2 would be even more effective than a 3 by 3, but I like my 3 by 3s. I've loved them for years and I've never failed with it. So the 3 sets of 190%, very comparable to the max effort method. easier on your recovery as well. And then 3x3, instant carryover. There's really not much for me to say about this. I'm just repeating myself. Do this, you won't regret it. Is the pistol squat where you sit on a box better or worse against the one where you're standing on top of it? I plan to do them weighted, but I want to know if I have to work on my mobility more for the one standing. Okay. The beauty of the standing variation is that it cuts out that mobility requirement. That's why I don't do regular pistol squats anymore. I felt like it was too much of a balancing act, and I was limited not by my leg strength, but my stability, how much I can keep my leg in front of the body while maintaining that super upright back angle. Bro, it's so much better standing up on a box, really. And you get a deeper range of motion too in most cases. So better technique, better loading potential. It's the way to go in my opinion. That said, does it beat the box version? It's like comparing a free squat to a box squat. That's for you to decide. With the box version, you're breaking up the eccentric concentric chain. And you can sit back more, which further loads the posterior chain. That might be good if you're someone who gets knee pain from pistol squats. You can also customize that range of motion. If you stand up, you're going to be ATG every single time. If you do on the box, you can get it slightly below parallel. So in some cases, you can lift heavier too. And because of the explosive nature, you can say that's slightly better for athletes. So it really depends what you're trying to go here for. I would personally mix in both because there's only so many variations you could do of the pistol squat. But if you can only lean towards one, I don't know. Maybe the box version because it's slightly easier on your recovery. But you have to try out both and see what works best for you. Hi there, Alex. I'm debating trying out the Smolov Junior Bench program. What are your thoughts on this program, and would you recommend it to a beginner, intermediate level lifter? Beginner? Hell no. That's a one-way ticket to Snap City. Just don't do it. Trust me. Intermediates? Yes, I would. But not all the time because it's really aggressive and minimalist in nature. But specific. That's the thing. It's so effective, but I don't like the fact that I believe on the Friday, Saturday, it's back-to-back and you're still going heavier. Man, the increased strain on your shoulders, I don't know if that's worth it. I'll be honest with you. But a lot of guys get tremendous success with that program. The waving system itself is genius. I've used that setup as well in my concurrent routines, and it's worked great, honestly. So I know that it's super effective, but sometimes you can't recommend something because of the injury risk. And I think Smolov is definitely one of those programs where you can really get yourself hurt. So if you're going to experiment with it, really do it once in a blue moon. Like once every 3 months or once every 6 months or once a year, heck, you know, or use that right before peaking since you're getting very specific like that. But just be aware that it's very, very hard. Like your body's going to feel dead for the most part. How long did it take you to look like you lift in a shirt, like not under good lighting and with a pump? As a natural, I think it's an important point to talk about. Cheers, man. Well, for me, I already had a calisthenics background. Then when I started lifting, obviously that added on. So I don't know, I would say a good 4 to 6 months I looked like I lifted, but does that matter? Really, what I accomplished, does that change anything in your life? We were all novices at some point. We all go through that lifting phase. Forget about other men. I would say look at yourself in the mirror, take pictures, and in a few months, you'll find out if you look like you lift or not. And the thing is, when you go out in public, people are going to tell you. When you walk around, people will be staring. When you're at a restaurant, the waiter might make some little jokes or comments, especially if you're eating a lot of food to go with it, you know. For me, I rarely stress about the when factor of things. I just follow the process. I'm on my path, and whatever happens, happens. I accept every possible consequence. But I don't know, maybe you're not wired like me in that way, you know. But going back to the original question, yeah, it took a good 4 to 6 months to look like I lifted, but I say I started looking really good around the 8-month mark because that's when I closed in on intermediate. So I think most lifters, it's going to take a good year to really look like you train, but you're still not going to be super buff or anything. Like you're going to build 70% of your total mass, but you're not going to be the biggest guy in your gym. So I'm just rambling at this point, but know that once you have your foundation, you'll look like you lift. Hey Alex, I currently only have enough plates to do 225 for my home gym. For squats, you think doing a 5x10 and eventually working up to 10x10 will still yield great results, or would I be better off trying to get more or less weight with exercises like Xerxes squats and Bulgarian split squats? Thanks, bro. I think you should do both, in addition to including good mornings, because that'll allow you to get a 500 plus deadlift without touching weights that are close to that. I can't even do 225 for reps on the good morning, and you saw me pull 565. The max I've done for 5x10, I believe, was 155. But this is with really good form now, full range of motion, and controlling the weight, obviously. So this is an exercise that gives you insane carryover while getting more out of less weight. And with 225, you can do so much. Think about it. High reps too. Reps of 20 on an RDL, give that a shot. And of course, your high volume like you described, 5x10, 10x10. 10x10 is kind of intense, not gonna lie. And you can always add on bands and chains in addition to the straight weight to modify that strength curve further. So you'll be okay. And then the unilateral stuff, you're not gonna be using 225 for reps for the most part. Like I've done that on Zercher lunges, but I ain't high repping that, man. And that still gets you very strong. So I think if you do a combination of all three, high volume squatting, the good mornings, and then the unilateral stuff at the end of your workout, you're gonna get insanely strong. Any recommendations for making your own pre-workout? I feel like ready-made ones got a lot of fillers. I've been making mine with only caffeine and citrulline malate so far. Yeah, I would agree with you. A lot of them have fillers or they have ingredients that may not agree with you. Like beta-alanine is a common one. Like, I don't like that, man. It makes me feel tingly. And there's other stuff too. The fillers like you described, it's so much cheaper to just buy things yourself and make it, Like, I recommend caffeine for one. Can never go wrong with that. And I think there's a calculator too, which tells you how much you should take based off your body weight. I forgot what that ratio was. I usually just have a coffee or two and I'm done with it. Though I do have caffeine pills as well for those rare occasions where I'm really gonna go balls to the wall. And I'll typically take 1 or 2 for that. So caffeine, citrulline malate for the best pumps of your life. Yeah, I've done that. It's amazing. Like if I'm gonna go to a gym, film a workout video, yeah, man, I'm taking some citrulline right beforehand, I always got some on deck, but I rarely ever use it. Like I haven't used it in months, Otherwise, you can experiment with beetroot powder as well. So caffeine and beetroot powder. But the thing is, you got to time it with that. I believe it takes 2 to 2.5 hours for you to get those crazy pumps. And it's a good citrulline alternative. So that's really all I'd recommend. Caffeine and citrulline for the pumps and just the energy and all that. But the other stuff that gets you like all crazy and stuff, I mean, I don't really have much experience with that. And the experience I do have has not been positive. It's always been me wired out of my damn mind and not being able to sleep at nighttime and just feeling off to a certain extent. I can't even describe it, but I'm not a pre-workout guy. And I think that they shouldn't be used on a consistent, frequent basis. Reserve it for the moments that count. And that's all I can say about that. Hey, Alex, could you talk about micro workouts and how to incorporate them for those who don't have a lot of time? Thanks. Okay, so grease in the groove type training. Well, I actually made a video on that subject, weighted grease in the groove and high frequency push-ups and pull-ups. So be sure to check those out. But in general, I would say that it's a very good way to remain fit long-term, especially if you are pressed on time and you have no other option. So just high frequency, small little routines, 10, 20 minutes, getting it in, or just throughout the day, it works. Pavel is the guy who popularized this concept, and he has several books that dive into these methods in further detail. So I'm not going to cover all those methodologies, but if you do your own research, you'll find that there are so many micro workouts that exist. Now, do I think this is optimal? Do I think it replaces your standard workout days? Absolutely not. I believe this should supplement your training, be in addition to what you're already doing. So for me, I might be on a full body routine or upper lower in addition to performing micro workouts, either every day or every other day, or just timed after my main session. So 12 to 24 hours after my main workouts, that's when I tend to do the GBP and stuff like that. So all depends what you're running, but I would say you really can't go wrong with this. Is it possible to build a big back without pull-ups? I only have a barbell and some dumbbells, but I'm worried that I won't get wide without doing pull-ups. No, you can still get absolutely massive and probably close to your genetic potential without ever doing a single pull-up. Do I think that's ideal from a longevity standpoint since you're neglecting the vertical pull? Not really. But you can argue that lat pull-downs will give you similar effects as well, muscular-wise. So it depends what you're trying to build. And obviously, I'm not a fan of those routines that neglect pull-ups. It's especially embarrassing when a guy has a 600 plus pound deadlift, but he can't even do 15 pull-ups. I find that to be absurd. But you know what? Let me stop with my judgment. Yeah, you could build a big back without pull-ups. In fact, some guys would argue that it's even better because with the barbell rows, you're not really taking away lat activation. You're just increasing the stress in the upper back region. Or you can say that just doing a bunch of rows in general, you're hitting all the desired muscle fibers. And you can manipulate the angle such that you do get a bit more lat in there, like rowing the bar closer to your hip, rowing the dumbbell closer to your hip, just changing things up. And to keep in mind, there's also pullovers, which are more of an isolator in a sense. So even though the pull-up is one of the greatest exercises of all time and will forever be a true staple, doesn't mean you have to do them. The truth is, there are no mandatory exercises. We have effective, time-proven exercises that you probably should do, but just because that's true doesn't mean it's an absolute necessity to get to a high level. And that's what the fitness community needs to understand. And let me add on to that by saying in 2016, I barely did any pull-ups, yet my back looked absolutely insane. I started incorporating more in late 2016 and early 2017. Then they became a true staple. But I still got really good gains without them. But I will say that things got better when I introduced them. And I would absolutely recommend them. No questions about it. That's what I do nowadays. It's what I preach. But you can do you. Okay, final question of the week. Could a person running linear periodization training for their main lift still maintain their work capacity by keeping their accessory, isolation, bodybuilding, etc. movements, single joint stuff at a high rep range? Okay, for most of the routines I've seen, that's not really typical because the whole thing with linear periodization is it begins with high volume and then it gradually tapers down to high intensity. It's not concurrent, man. It's designed to train separate elements. So if you're doing low reps on the main work, which is pretty fundamental for these routines, especially if they're minimalist in nature, then you're going in hitting very high reps in the same session or just in general, it's going to interfere with the adaptations because it's linear periodization. It's not the conjugate system, man. So if you are interested in doing more bodybuilding type stuff and optimizing your hypertrophy and performance on all levels, just maximize your system, and this will never be a problem in a million years. You can do it all year round, pretty much forever. But going back to your question, is it possible? I would say yes, but you're probably not optimizing the periodization process itself, which is crazy, but that's how it is. So you can always experiment, do some high rep accessories. I think I've seen that with a few routines, but it's not the norm. And you will lose work capacity when you train like this, just saying. You can't be at peak fitness year round with this. Not going to happen unless maybe if you're doing some cardio additionally on the side, but still it's not the same. You can't compare 5x10 to a 3x3. You just can't. So my best advice for you would be to stay the away from linear periodization. I did it back in the day. It just led to me feeling snapped up and having plateaus left and right and not maximizing my results. I say concurrent conjugate is the way to go. You won't regret it. But you asked me a question. I shared a bit of my bias and what you could do. So I'll say that you'll probably still get some decent gains, but that you're not optimizing the linear periodization process itself. That's my opinion, and if you have further info to add on to that, well, let's see in the comment section. So that's it, guys. I love this Q&A. The questions were phenomenal. Let's see some more down below, and I'll talk to you all next time.